Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the Kitts-Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
I'm Ian Richards. Welcome to InFocus, a weekly program where we zoom in on what's happening within and throughout the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, your government. According to UNESCO, technical and vocational educational training, or TVET, comprises education, training, and skills development relating to a wide range of occupational fields, production, services, and livelihoods. Now, in the Federation, the development of TVET is overseen by the St. Kitts-Nevis TVET Council Secretariat, which operates under the Federal Ministry of Education. As St. Kitts and Nevis move towards becoming a sustainable island state, the demand for skilled TVET professionals will become increasingly critical, and the Council is committed to igniting the potential for holistic growth and advancing development in this critical field. Joining us today to discuss these holistic growth strategies is Dr. THompson, Chief Executive Officer of the TVET Council Secretariat. Stay with us as we delve into your government, your business. Welcome back to InFocus, and allow me to welcome for the very first time to InFocus Dr. THompson, the CEO of the St. Kitts-Nevis TVET Council Secretariat. Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Good afternoon to your listening audience as well.
We have a lot to get into, so let's jump right into it. Now, Dr. Thompson, we established in the beginning what technical and vocational educational training is all about, but how would you define it in the year 2024?
A very good question. Thank you for having me again this afternoon. TVET in 2024 is really about skills development. And in the modern days that we're in these days, a dynamic workforce, TVET is a driver for economic development. It's a way of ensuring that we have a workforce that is highly skilled and certified for the world of work. And here in St. Kitts and Nevis, that's our goal of right now, was pushing TVET into those higher stream areas that can really drive the sustainable development of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Now, as established, you are the Chief Executive Officer of the TVET Council Secretariat. What are the functions of this council?
Well, the TVET Council in St. Kitts, which was established under the Education Act of 2005, is really responsible for advising the Minister on matters relating to TVET.
And that would be the Minister of Education?
The Minister of Education, right. That is. In some countries it's Labour, but in St. Kitts it's actually the Minister of Education. We are responsible for overseeing all aspects of TVET, from training and certification, especially certification, because we focus on really developing a highly competent and highly skilled workforce. So those are really our main functions, really to certify the workforce and ensure that we have a skilled workforce to drive sustainable development.
And the makeup of that council, what does that look like?
The council comprises of 10 members. We bring members from industry. So there are some members representing employer associations. So we have, for example, the Tourism Association. We also have The Contractor Association, those are two of our major economic drivers for St. Kitts-Nevis, tourism and construction. So we definitely have those on the council. We have members representing employees. So those would be like the trades and labor union. So we have trades and labor union for St. Kitts, and we also have the teachers union. And then we have CFPC president as a representative. We have representative from the Ministry of Labor. And we have a set of TVET experts, folks who've been around TVET, who understands TVET, who could really advise on what is occurring within the TVET areas. And we have 3 of those representatives on the council. In fact, I sit on the council as one of those TVET experts. We do have representation from Nevis as well. So it's a total of 10 folks, and we really bring some broad-based knowledge from across different sectors of the economy.
Is there a duration in terms of tenure, how long a person can remain on the council?
The council, members of the council are appointed for 3 years, and they can be reappointed again after that, should that 3 years expire.
And how would you say the turnover has been?
Well, this council has been in existence now. The current construct has been in existence for the last, since last year, January 1st of last year. This term expires on the 31st of December of 2025. But we have a robust plan, robust work plan, a lot of things to do within these 3 years.
Okay, well, I actually want to touch on that plan and see what is expected. But about your duties as CEO, what are you responsible for?
Well, I manage what we call the executing arm of the council. The council oversees, makes policy decisions and those things, advise the minister. And whatever decision is made on implementation of the work, then that's where we come in. So I'm the one who's responsible for managing that office. Currently, we have a standards and promotions officer. We have a training assessment officer. We have a projects officer. We're still a couple of people short that we're trying to fill. But really, it's an office that's supposed to manage all the work of the council. So they don't have to come and down and do all the integral work. They oversee, implement policy, and set and make decisions for us to execute on.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been on the council?
I've been in the council now for just about 2 years, but I've been at the Secretariat, leading the Secretariat for the last 9 years. And we've really been doing a lot in terms of developing and getting us ready for the next step. So for example, when I took over the Secretariat, we had no processes and procedures in place, no documentation of our processes, nothing to really quality assure the TVET system. Now we can surely say now we've gone that far. Mm-hmm. We were not able, when I took over in 2015, to say we can issue certification from the TVET Council. Now we can say we are there. Hence why we have this first month of activities this year. A lot of things has taken place. We're developing occupational standards here to certify our folks on, and we have a quality assurance system in place. We have a monitoring evaluation system in place. We have a certification system in place for certifying those folks out there in the industry without them even going to school. So we have a lot of things that we've done over the last 9 years. Mm-hmm.
So how would that be based in terms of those who don't attend school? What would that be based on?
Okay, it's a process we call prior learning and assessment recognition. So what we would do is basically take someone who has experience out there in the field, the carpenters, the masons, even the mechanics, all these folks, doesn't matter what area. And you basically assess them against a set of industry developed standards. Those standards say what that person doing that particular job will be able to do in the industry. Mm. And we certify them, validate that they can do it. They can demonstrate it in real time, or if they have work-related videos and those things that we could use to show that, yes, that person could actually do that. For example, with a mason, if part of the job says, well, obviously part of the job is going to be, you have to be able to run blocks. Right. You have to be able to probably put up a wall a certain length, and it has to be within standard, within specification. So if you have a video showing that, we could use that as evidence against that. Or if they don't have anything, we could actually go on the job and watch them do it. Just sign off and say, yes, that person is competent in that area. And with a TVET certification like these, it's not they go to school, someone lecture, they take a written test. They have to demonstrate that they could actually perform these work. So if you say you're a mechanic and you have to replace a transmission, you're going to have to replace the transmission. You have to show you can replace a transmission. So when you do go for an interview, now you're not telling the employer that, yeah, I know how to install the transmission. You could actually tell them, I can actually install the transmission. I can demonstrate to you how it's done, and I can actually do it in real time.
And you have your certification.
And you have your certification to prove it.
And that's very important, because a lot of persons back in the past, they found themselves in fields working with tradesmen, learning the skills, looking at them, and then being able to do it without having that formal training. So that is important for persons, especially of the older age now, to say that they actually can have something, because in today's age, having that certification is very important.
It is. I mean, when you look at, for example, let's take the government system, for example, where qualifications can determine your K scale and those things. Someone who's been working, let's take water department, for example, you've been working as a linesman or whatever, and you may not have a particular certification. We could actually certify you. So now you might be able to get appointed to a different scale based on those type of certifications. And the different levels. Currently we have 5 different levels. Level 1, basically an entry-level person who requires supervision. We have a level 2, who is someone who is skilled. They can work on their own without supervision. A level 3 is someone who's a technician, a supervisor. And we start getting up into the higher levels, like level 4 and 5. Now, these are your managers and your contractors and those folks. So we could actually certify our entire workforce once they can demonstrate that they have the skills and competencies to do the work.
Now, in business management, of course, they teach you about the 4 Ps, which would be price, product, place, promotion. I want to use the same P concept and ask you in terms of the evolution of TVET over the past 10 years that you've been there. But we're going to relate it to the programs. I'm going to relate it to the promotion, as in the awareness of TVET, and also the professionalism, because that is something that is very critical.
Well, the good thing about what we're doing now, over the last 9 to 10 years, we've really been setting up the system, because that didn't exist before. And the system is what really allows for them to have professionalism. The certification, you can't just go and say you're certified, because you have to demonstrate the attitude that is needed for that line of work. We have some folks who might say, well, they want to go work in construction, or they want to, let's take auto mechanics, for example. A lot of our young folks these days, man, they like to wear the pant down. But in a mechanic shop, that might not be safe. So those are things that you have to be able to do correctly in the shop. You have to dress professionally. You have to dress for the actual job. You have to be able to conduct yourself and communicate in a professional manner in the area that you're actually working in. In terms of promotion, I mean, we're doing a lot now, because over the last few years, we were not able to do certain things. We couldn't certify the workforce. And if you couldn't certify the workforce, it doesn't make sense to promoting this certification process and the professionalism of the workforce and those things. So now we know we can do it.
When did certification come on board?
Well, we've really been rolling out these certifications for a better part of this year in terms of the different type of training and what we can do. But we have the process now to allow that. Part of this month of awareness is really to let the public know that we have this available. When we have the institutions here in St. Kitts to be able to do those things. So that's a lot of what we're doing this month, but this is just a start. We've worked on processes and procedures and established those to professionalize the TVET sphere, and really to ensure that we have the right product to offer to the general public.
And the programs, because of course persons may think of, when you hear TVET, you think of carpenter, you think of somebody who does construction, you think of someone, like you mentioned, auto mechanics, but the programs itself, they're becoming a bit more complicated, aren't they?
Actually, they are. People always think that just the hard trades, or as we call them, the hard trades are what TVET is all about. But in reality, we need folks who can perform at those higher levels that require a lot more thinking, a lot more creativity, who requires a certain level that the average person before the old traditional way of thinking cannot really perform at those levels. And that's one of the good thing about the certifications, because they have levels from 1 to 5, right? So someone at a level 5 will be required to think at a certain level and be able to perform certain things. With the advent of AI and all these new technologies, those are TVET areas that we require folks who have a high level of skill sets to be able to perform these jobs, to do the programming and those things. Those are high level skills that are needed. And so while way back, people used to think that we just require folks in the lower streams, the 4th and the 5th grade forms to go and do TVET. It's not that way today. We need those folks in those one stream, the physics and the chemistry and the math guys, to be able, guys and gals really, to really go and perform, come to TVET in some of these areas.
Yes, because of course
the complexity is really too complex these days.
Yeah, when you're talking about artificial intelligence, you're talking about software. You have to understand how the computer works, its software development, coding, etc. So it's not just a matter of someone that you would think about in the past, okay, maybe somebody who fixes a computer, but it's also now somebody who can write software, develop software.
That is correct. You know, with TVET, we take computers, for example, and not just, well, computers are using all kind of equipment these days. So you need to be able to write the different languages. And those are TVET skill sets that you need, and TVET competencies that you need in order to be able to perform those jobs successfully. And the certification that can be gained from the TVET Council are developed by folks in the industry, is the industry experts. Because while I may have a background in information technology, that's been a while. So we get the occupational standards, we get with folks who are current in the industry, who are current in their field, to be able to tell us what exactly does a computer repair technician needs. What does
emerging trends?
Yes. So all those things are incorporated, and we need. And so everything is based on what the industry say is needed for the world of work.
So then, Dr. Thompson, what is the Secretariat doing in trying to change the stigma associated with these things, to let persons, especially those in the youngest age bracket, high schools, to get them to realize that TVET is a lot more than what you're saying now in terms of the electrical, the plumbing, you know, those things that persons will consider, and so it's much more sophisticated now.
Well, this month we started really the marketing of TVET. This is just the start. We're going to have ongoing campaigns to try to change the stigma. Folks in my office have been going from preschool. There was an engagement last week at one of the preschool here where they call it color and sip. But as much as it might sound simple, it's really developing those motor skills that are needed for the world of work. And so I wasn't here on island last week. I really wish I was, but it actually saw the children were actually engaged, and it's really about getting them involved. But I think one of the biggest things for us, we're all questions to get in front of the parents. We've been doing the high schools now. In fact, yesterday they were at one high school, tomorrow they're going to be at another. So we're going to go to all the high schools in the Federation. We're going to be on Nevis on Friday, so we're taking them on to Nevis as well. But the parents are who we're going to be targeting. Because the parents, traditional parents here in St. Kitts-Nevis, they want the children to become doctors and lawyers. But everybody can't be a doctor and lawyer, and everybody shouldn't be a doctor or a lawyer. Because the truth is, we do need the carpenters, the masons. Who's going to build our houses? Who's going to fix our cars? The cars these days are fully computerized. And the traditional old-time mechanics, they can't really fix those vehicles. They need the skill sets to be able to use the specialized tools to be able to diagnose the problem with these vehicles, and then to do the type of repairs that are needed. So our goal is really to push TVET to the parents. We got to get them on board for them to realize no one goes to school just because they want to go to school in later years. They might go to school because the parents say they have to go, but you need a career. And you can't have just one set of careers in the country, because then that's not a sustainable island state, for sure. We need people who are trained in some of the new and emerging technologies like green technology, ocean, the blue economy, orange economy. All these are dynamic things that are taking place right now. But we are intending to get in front, push TVET out there and in front everyone.
You just actually touched on my next question, which would be in terms of TVET and the Sustainable Island State. But before we get to that, we're going to have to take our first break.
Okay.
Stay right there. We'll be right back with more In Focus. Welcome back to In Focus. We continue our discussion with Dr. Kertney THompson of the St. Kitts-Nevis TVET Council Secretariat. Dr. THompson, before we left, we were speaking about the Sustainable Island State. How do you see TVET really empowering the transformation? And you touched on it a bit in terms of the emerging trends with green technology, of course, and with AI. But how do you see TVET moving forward, that transformation here in St. Kitts and Nevis?
Well, the development of any economy or any nation requires a vibrant economy. And TVET is there to help drive some of that activity. The new and emerging trends that are taking place in various forms of the sectors of the economy, TVET is who can be responsible for the development of those and for the maintenance and upkeep of those. I mean, as we move to, again, green technology, we talk about solar, wind, all the different type of turbines. You require someone to be able to fix those. And that's where we're going to come in. We're going to be able to help with the maintenance and upkeep of those equipment, the installation of those equipment. We talk about even something like the orange economy, which is one of our fastest sector here in St. Kitts-Nevis, that entertainment sector. Mm-hmm. You know, we could certify folks in that. We could certify the DJs, we could certify all the camera folks, we can certify the lighting and these guys who may have learned it on the job, or even if they go to school to get it. But TVET is a major economic driver. You create a more certified, a more qualified workforce. And if you have a more qualified workforce, it means that you're going to be able to improve the productivity of the workforce. And those improved productivity help to improve your economy overall, which bode well for any country that wants to maintain the economic step going forward.
No, you just touched on a very important point, and it's one that most persons who are listening or viewing this program will identify with. And we spoke earlier about professionalizing. Mm-hmm. The right attitude. Yes. It's very important because, of course, we've all had to deal with persons who are skilled, and most of the times you'll hear persons complain, it's like you are begging them for service. You are begging them to give you quality. You call them to do a job, and it takes them a long while to respond. And if they respond right away, there's probably an emergency fee attached to it. But you know, and when you do the job, sometimes there is not satisfaction that the work is done properly. And there is no, well, maybe that's something I need to ask you, if there'll be an area where persons can be complained or rated, but we'll get to that later. But talk to us about developing that right attitude. Is the council really concerned about that and working on it? Any strategies that are being advised to the Ministry of Education to really improve industry standards?
Well, the good thing about it is that the occupational standards that are developed with the industry have these things embedded in them to train the workforce to be able to, we call them critical employability skills. You know, you have to be able to communicate effectively. You have to be able to, customer service is important. So all these things are included in there. I understand that's a problem. I have a real world example of that taking place with me right now. I have a gas dryer that I need converted from natural gas to liquid propane. Mm-hmm. And I have called about 3 folks in St. Kitts. And this has been going on and on now for about a month. And one was busy, one's off island, one hasn't responded. So I had to purchase the actual part myself while I was in Florida last week to be able to convert my dryer myself. Now, I have the skill sets to do it, but why should I? When there are actual professionals who could actually do it. I'm going to have to fumble my way through it. But that just tells me that either we have a problem here where we don't have enough skilled and certified folks, or those folks are just purely unprofessional. I think it's the one where we just don't have enough. So I think they just have too much jobs, right? But the truth is, there's a way for them to be able to communicate back to us or back to any customer. They could have simply said, hey, we're really tied up right now. We're going to get to you at this particular time. But then that put the onus on us in the training system to ensure that we have enough certified, enough skilled, enough trained and certified folks in the workforce to be able to fill that gap. Because there's no way I should be waiting for over a month to get that gas to change over. But other people might be facing it. But from a TVET standpoint, again, when we establish these occupational standards, and I'm going to stress again, with the industry folks, they're the ones who are telling us what they expect. But we get a lot of, when we get discussions and we have discussion with the employers out there in the industry, they're telling us that yes, a lot of the folk come out of training, they have the requisite technical skills. It's those employability skills, those soft skills per se, that we still have to work on. And we are actually making a lot of effort to get those in. Next week I have what's called a dialogue with industry on industry certification. And I'm trying to hear from them what is needed and let them know what we're doing to change some of those things with the folks who are coming out of our training institutions. Because professionalism, you can know all the technical things in the world, but if you can't communicate effectively with the customers, you can't function in a team environment, you may not be able to be successful in a work environment. And while some may say, well, I could go work for myself, you may not be able to communicate with your customers, so you really can't be successful in business either way. So those are things we're trying to change.
Right, because that links to my next question in terms of the business model as well, too, because of course the government is also keen on having persons establish their own business. You know, the Ministry of Small Business Development is focused on that, and persons have to look at themselves, if you are in a technical vocational field, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur. But in order to be successful, you must have a business model, because of course, as companies continue to grow and expand, they will expect that they will be able to tap into the emerging markets where persons are able to have that skills that are upgraded to provide that. And it should not be that your standard is not up to scratch where they would say, I can't hire John, I can't hire Jane, because there is actually no sense of professionalism, no business model that they have. Invoicing is something that is very critical for companies to keep a track of how they spend the money. But most persons, oh, it's all right, man, it's all right. I don't need to do receipt, you don't need to. But no, that's very important for companies because they need to track where their spending goes. And so developing a business model, is that also a part of it?
Yes. In fact, as we go through up the levels, level 1 is an entry-level person. So you really don't expect that person to have their own business. If I'm an entry-level, level 1 certified person, I'm not ready to have a business. Level 2 now I'm starting to become, I can do the work on my own. I can be a skilled person. So then I might have to start incorporating some entrepreneurship training. So if you look at the occupational standards, the way they're developed, is that you'll see at level 2, you start to incorporate some entrepreneurial courses or units in that occupational standards. And it even strengthened at level 3, where now they could function completely on their own. Now, we don't have the standard here in St. Kitts where you have to have a certain level of qualification to get open a business in some areas. In some countries they do, where you would have to get like a level 3 in order to be able to start a business. If we had that level, then you know that kind of qualification or that kind of license establishment here, then we could actually pin that with the qualification, because you know they would have been trained on entrepreneurship and all the business aspects of doing the actual job, incorporated within the standards. And then outside of that, we do have an entrepreneurship certification. So if a business person, a mechanic, for example, who have a shop, wants to enhance their skill sets in managing the business piece, we have that certification that they could actually go through. It will teach them all about the business organization, how to manage it, how to do your accounting. And there's other certification for business administration as well, general business administration and those things, where you do the accounting, you do the invoicing. We even have certification for customer service. And here in St. Kitts, we have actually established 2 national vocational qualification on level 1 and level 2 for customer service already. We know that is a challenge here, so we're working on those things.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to hoping for improvement in dealing with tradesmen, you're saying that there is hope?
Well, there's a lot of optimism.
Right. Okay.
Not just, I don't want to just say hope. Hope sounds like down the road. There's a lot of optimism because I think really what we've done over the last few years is set up the process to help our people,
okay,
which ultimately is going to help our economy and our country.
Dr. Thompson, so then where do you learn these skills? Of course, there are 3 main institutions that I'm thinking about here in St. Kitts-Nevis, and we could start with AVEC. Mm-hmm. I think most persons are familiar with it. Tell us about the interaction that your council has with AVEC and how things are developing there.
Okay, AVEC has been making some significant improvement. You know, AVEC, the Advanced Vocational Education Center, right now, there's a number of courses being offered at AVEC, both day. Some courses being taken at night. Now we have an electrical course at night as well. But the goal is really, AVEC, we actually audited AVEC in July so they could become a center, an approved center to offer the National Vocational Qualification of St. Kitts and Nevis. And we're working with them to fine tune some of the processes still, but we've trained the assessors, we've trained the verifiers. AVEC is one of the places that we can go and get full-blown certification in a multitude of areas. And CFBC is going to be next to come on stream, and we have 1 private entity right now, Soul to Soul Cosmetology School. Mm-hmm. They can do cosmetology. But we have a lot of programs. We have automotive, commercial food preparation, electrical, air conditioning, refrigeration. We have general office administration, welding. That's a very lucrative area. General construction as well too, and of course we have cosmetology. You know, so there's a lot of areas available.
Now, you touched on it earlier in terms of accreditation and certification. Mm-hmm. Now, that's very important, and it helps a lot to ensure that our persons are able to have the paper to prove that they are competent, and that also helps with free movement, and we'll touch on that in just a bit too. But tell us a bit about the partnerships that are available in that regard in terms of certification. I know in particular there is some partnerships that is done with the Taiwanese Technical Mission.
Well, what has been done with Taiwanese Technical Mission is that they're really our funding partner in some of this training. So at AVEC we have an NVQ program being conducted.
And that would be national.
And that's a National Vocational Qualification of St. Kitts and Nevis. We would normally put it as an acronym, the NVQ SKN, right? So it's been offered under AVEC as a training provider, but the funding for that program comes from the Taiwanese Technical Mission. So they pay for the instructor. They actually provide a stipend to some of the trainees, but they also provide the tools and equipment and a lot of the consumables and the consumables that is required in these training, because TVET is very consumable driven. You know, you can't do TVET without practicing. So you can't become a welder without practicing too well. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of funds that has to be dispelled into those programs, and the Taiwanese have been really a very good partner. Other than that, most of the other training, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis fund these training, and the tuition is free. So for all our nationals out there, citizens and residents who are in St. Kitts and Nevis, just go to AVEC. The training is available free of charge.
Now, earlier this year, I had President Abrams. Well, he's not there at CFBC anymore, and Dr. Fitzroy Wilkin, who I know is affiliated also with your council, and he actually was supposed to be on our program, but wasn't able to make it. And they spoke a bit about the new program at CFBC that deals with smart vehicles and repairing solar panels, you know. And the accreditation for that comes from the Caribbean Center of Excellence in Research, Innovation, and Workforce Training. Tell us a bit about the partnership there as well, too, because that is a regional and leading to international agency because they have a broader partnership as well to that feeds into that would really help to get persons certified.
Well, that organization actually works directly with CFPC on a program administered out of the United States.
Right.
But from a TVET in the region standpoint, we have established the occupational standards for photovoltaic, which is solar system installation. We also do EVs. We're actually developing, we call it level 4 and level 5 occupational standard right now for electronic vehicles.
Right.
And those were developed with funding from GIZ, which is a German organization that provided funding. They came through UE, and then we set up through Cantor to have those occupational standards developed across the region. So while we're not really affiliated with that research organization that at CFBC, in the development of some of those occupational standards, they actually played a role in those. So that partnership exists. It started, I think, originally when they set up those occupational standards at level 1 and 2 in Jamaica. And then we now expanded it throughout the rest of the region for CVQ awarded.
And having those skills in electronic vehicles repair is very important. The Prime Minister would have indicated earlier that his office had purchased 2 vehicles where persons can practice, and which goes back to what you were saying in the sense that you must be able to practice whatever your vocation is in order to develop that skill.
Well, that's the thing. If you're actually going to be trained or be certified to do certain things, you have to have the equipment to work on. You know, in a past life, we used to, a program that I ran that dealt with hybrid vehicles as part of the program, and we actually had to buy the actual hybrid vehicles. So it's a good thing that we get in these. It's just going to show that the candidates or the trainees that we're going to train in St. Kitts are going to have real world experience. They're going to be trained on the equipment that is going to be out there. You know, you can't have a degree or have a certification as a automotive repair technician, but you never touch a car. You know, there's a lot of simulations out there, you know, but you have to touch that vehicle. You have to actually go and remove the components, diagnose it in real time. And so it's a good thing that we have those. I'm not sure they're here yet, but they should be coming shortly.
Right. Okay, and also there's a relationship with the Chamber of Crafts, which is in Flensburg, Germany. Tell us about that.
Yes, we signed a memorandum of understanding earlier this year with the chamber in Germany. See, in Germany, the system is a lot different. The TVET, while it said crafts, for them, that's really TVET in Germany. And Germany has one of the best TVET systems in the world. I've been there, I've seen it in action. So we signed up a memorandum of understanding to be able to provide training, bring experts and expertise here, as well as to send people off to Germany. As a matter of fact, 2 of our former students from CFBC should be starting in 2025 in Germany. And they've been learning the German language and they've been very fluent already. Now, this month, on the 25th, we actually started training a 2-week workshop with some experts from Germany who's going to be here. They're going to be doing electrical, carpentry, and they're going to bring some training on paint, especially those dealing with mold and those things. I mean, you know, we have a problem with that here in St. Kitts. So that is really starting to bear fruits already, in that we have some candidates already selected to go to Germany, and now we have the experts coming. The next set of training is going to be also in February, that we're going to have another set of experts come down to do some training here in St. Kitts-Nevis. And it's really all about transferring that knowledge, that skill set that we have in Germany to our people here in St. Kitts.
And it goes back again to dealing with real world problems, because as you mentioned, in terms of mold, it is something that, you know, is very prevalent in different buildings across St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, the government would have recently hosted a workshop on indoor air quality that would help to address some of these issues as well too. But it's very interesting that they are being trained, our persons here are being trained to tackle issues that we are facing right now, which speaks to the fact that we need persons developed, properly trained, properly certified to tackle issues that we are facing.
Yes, and again, that's why we start this month of activity. We've done a whole lot of laying the groundwork in preparation to really launch and have these certification systems available. mean, we've done the work. All we now can do now is come to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis and say, the St. Kitts-Nevis TVET Council can certify you in these areas. And that's what we intend to do with a whole lot of the activities and promotions that we're doing this month and going forward.
The NVQs, the National Vocational Qualifications, SKN, how widely are they accepted?
Well, part of the acceptance process is what we're doing. You know, in other Caribbean countries, they're widely accepted because they develop with the industry expert and they've been there already established. What we're doing now, since we've established the process, is really coming to the industry folks and telling them, and really not just the industry folks, coming to everyone in St. Kitts and Nevis and marketing what we have and what we can offer. Let me give you an example, because a lot of folks understand the Caribbean vocational qualification component and they've been really trying to say, well, that is a higher one than this. There's really no difference between a CVQ and an NVQ when it comes to the level of qualification. But one is across the Caribbean, allow you to move freely, and the national vocational qualification is for us. Here's one of the things that we realize happening. When we validate some of our standards that we've developed here in St. Kitts and Nevis against the Caribbean vocational qualification, all employers here are saying, yes, you have these number of units that can be certified at the CVQ level, but you also need to add these two because all people in St. Kitts needs to know this and this. So a lot of times, so what we're now pushing is letting folks understand what this net NVQ is. And we're doing this marketing campaign, as we said, is just starting. And next week, the 19th, we're actually having that dialogue with industry. Well, it's called Dialogue on Industry Certification. We're bringing employers from public and private sector to really talk about it, show them what's available, and let them know, hey, they're the ones who are developing the standards for us, it's not us. We're not telling the employees, this is what you have to learn. They're telling us, someone coming out of a training institution needs to be able to do A, B, C, and D. And they must be able to demonstrate that they have the competency, they have the skill and the right attitude to be able to do that. Because they're telling us what they need. And then we're going to train off the students, or train the trainees to be able to go back to the world of work.
Dr. Thompson, we're going to have to take our final break. And when we get back, we want to discuss free movement. Of course, with skills, persons are allowed to move freely within the region. And we want to have a discussion on that and how persons in St. Kitts and Nevis can benefit or how they have taken advantage of the opportunities that are there. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more InFocus.
If you haven't done it as yet, please do it today. Subscribe to our YouTube page at SKNIS Media for regular updates, live coverage, and even more information on your government. While you're at it, like, share, and interact with our Facebook and Instagram pages at SKNIS Media and SKNIS Info.
Thanks for staying with us. We continue our conversation with Dr. Kertney THompson, and we're discussing technical, vocational, and educational training here in St. Kitts and Nevis and the role that it plays in helping to develop a sustainable island state that we're moving towards, and also how you, as an individual, whether yourself or your children or your friends, can really benefit from TVET. All right, Dr. Thompson, free movement, as we spoke about. Now, of course, there's a CARICOM free movement, and OECS, which St. Kitts and Nevis is also a part of, is a smaller group, but it's a lot more progressive as part of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. Now, talk to us about the opportunities that exist for persons to move, which includes persons coming here. Because I had a conversation with someone on Saturday, and they were concerned, and we were talking about the same thing in terms of tradesmen and their unreliability, and the fact that persons who are skilled could come here and seek the opportunities that our persons here may be missing out on? Well,
across the region, CSME, well, we know the OECS have that free movement mechanism built into the treaty. At CARICOM on the CSME revised treaty, we can do that as well. But there's only a certain set of folks who are allowed to move freely, and you have to have a certain level of qualification. So from the organization that I chair, the regional organization, which is Cantor, that's our task in really driving the regional workforce to allow or support the free movement of people across the region. Our task then is the development of the CVQ, which is a Caribbean vocational qualification. And for citizens in the Caribbean countries who have certification at CVQ level in quite a number of areas can move freely across the region. And of course, Kittitians have that ability too. I happen to sit on the Free Movement Committee here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and very rarely do I see a Kittitian or Nevisian application come through. Most of them are, of course, Jamaica, and they come in with various qualifications. Yes, some of it is the Caribbean vocational qualification, some is CAPE, associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, doctors, lawyers, and they can move freely across the region. The opportunity exists for Kittitians and Nevisians as well. I guess because St. Kitts has one of the better, most stable economies in the region, that people tend to come to St. Kitts rather than leave. Mm-hmm. And Kittitians tend to go north rather than move within the region. But it's an opportunity for all of us. And that's part of my task as CEO for the TVET Secretariat, is really to certify our workforce so that we can move across the region, should we choose. Because we're in the process. What we've done in setting up all these processes is really so that St. Kitts could become a CVQ awarding country, which we intend to be audited in 2025, early 2025, to be a CVQ awarding country. And then our nationals could move using that qualification. But even without the CVQ qualification, CFPC, if you have trained at CFPC, you have an associate's degree, CFPC, or at AVEC, you can get a curriculum skills certificate and move freely across the region as well.
Have the fears manifested where persons are concerned that there are persons who will come into country and take jobs from locals? Have that manifested based on what you've seen?
Well, I hear it all the time, but I'm not so sure that that's really the case. Because a lot of what I see, especially sitting on the skills committee, is that we don't get a lot of the highly qualified folks to come to St. Kitts. You know, we get the level 1 and level 2, some level 3 skills folks that comes to St. Kitts and Nevis. So our people have got to take advantage of the opportunities that are offered here in St. Kitts and Nevis, both at AVEC, at CFPC, and now with the certifications that we're offering. Just take advantage of them. The training is free. I'm stressing free because in 2022, when the St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party took over, one of the first things the Prime Minister said is that tuition at our training institution are free. So no tuition, meaning you can go and get the training that you need.
Okay, I'm going to spend a little time now, the remaining time that we have, talking about TVET Awareness Month. And you would have referred to it earlier. You mentioned that it's the first time it's taking place. Why have this month?
Well, we were trying all kind of different months this year when we talk about TVET awareness, and we realized every time we tried to select a month and say we want to put focus on it, and we wanted to do it while school was in. We didn't want to do it when school was out. And we did look at October, for example, and there were so many different things, and we said, let's try November. First we was looking at a week, and then we said, no, let's do the entire month, because it gives us more time to really showcase TVET that's available in St. Kitts and Nevis, and because it's not something that we're going to do one time. It is the first. That's why we say it's inaugural, and that's why we had an opening ceremony, not just publish it and say we're having a TVET Awareness Month of activities. We actually had an opening ceremony on the 1st of November to be able to make sure that people understand that we're passionate about this, and this is something that we're going to be doing going forward. So in 2025, when we come back around in November, we intend to have a bigger month. But we've had a lot of activities that took place so far, and we're having some really interesting ones coming forward. And the one that I'm really looking forward to, while we have had the ones in the secondary schools, and that's really to ensure that we get into the heads of the second formers, because as they move into third form with the select subjects, we want them to be able to select TVET-related subjects. Either one. Actually, the national TVET policy is for everyone to finish secondary school with at least one TVET-related certification. And so we're trying to make sure that we do that to our second formers who goes in. So when they go to third form, they can select a TVET-related subject, at least one. I'm actually looking forward to the dialogue with the industry folks this month on the 19th, because it's going to give us an opportunity to talk to them directly about the certification, so we could actually do the promotion that way, but also to engage them on what they can do or how they benefit from the TVET trainees, how TVET is going to benefit their business, and not only that, but how we can continue our partnership, not just in the area of developing the occupational standards so they tell us what the employers need to know, but also the type of curriculum that we need to train our students or the trainees on. So I'm really looking forward to that. There's one other thing that I'm really, really looking forward to is on the 19th, we have a basic woodworking for women. That is a way to say we're looking at making TVET gender sensitive. You know, you don't find here in St. Kitts a lot of females dealing with some of those traditional male-dominated courses. You know, the automotive, electrical, carpentry, and those type of things. So we're really looking at getting this one in front of the females. We thought we would have 10, but when I left the office earlier today, I think we had about 12 or 13 people and more calling because they want to learn.
I don't think you're paying attention, Dr. Thompson. I say that because the Department of Gender Affairs had a workshop where there was every week women in non-traditional fields, and they would have done tiling, they would have done auto mechanics, they would have done electrical as well too, and some other areas that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But every workshop was oversubscribed, and in Nevis as well too, because TDC partnered with them in terms of the automotive, and TDC went out and did it on their own as well too. And so there's a successful partnership between the private and public sector. But the point is that women are really stepping forward to learn on their own, and the point is that they no longer have to depend on a man, they can do it themselves. And so I'm not surprised to hear you say that, you know, you were hoping for 10. I think you will get a lot more. Actually, a co-worker of mine said she would love to have taken part in this workshop.
Well, we're going to have more of them. It's just that based on the size of the workshop, and safety is important. So we're going to start with that group. I mean, we may take it a little beyond the 10, just to make sure that we could have, because one of the things you don't want in a TVET-related course like these is to have a mass group. Right. This is not a traditional college where a lecturer can stand up here on the podium and lecture to 100 students. Here is more interactive, and you got to make sure that you monitor and make sure that they could actually do the work. So we're really looking forward to that. But later on this month, we also have the Cantor meetings are going to be here. It's the first time we're having the Cantor meeting in St. Kitts.
And for those who may not be aware, explain what Cantor is.
Cantor is the Caribbean Association of National Training Authorities. It's the body in CARICOM that is responsible for managing, overseeing, quality assuring TVET within the region. It's the one responsible for proving regional occupational standards as well as for the CVQs, the Caribbean Vocational Qualification. So we have this meeting twice a year. This is the first time it's going to be held in St. Kitts. I'm actually the chair of Cantor. It's the first time someone from the OECS is actually chairing Cantor. So we're really looking forward to have all regional colleagues here in St. Kitts to be able to bring ideas to St. Kitts during those 2 days or 3 days that we're going to be here discussing TVET.
Right, and I actually was just going to ask you about the benefits of hosting such a meeting, especially for the first time.
Yeah, well, we get to get our folks right here in St. Kitts-Nevis. We're going to be doing some tours, so we're going to look at some of the institutions as well. And recommendations and real-life recommendations from those who are managing TVET systems that are probably even more developed in some areas than ours. Jamaica, we have some folks coming from Jamaica, Heart Trust. I was there last week, and so they're going to get to give us some ideas while they're here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, before we leave, and there's about 5 minutes left in our interview, I know that there was a point that was made, I think it was back in 2023 by education officials, that there was going to be a plan to have TVET introduced in primary schools. Where is that?
Well, TVET in primary school is always in the work, because what we look at when we talk about TVET in our curriculum is to infuse the TVET competencies. You don't necessarily have to sometimes have an actual workshop, but you could include it in the lesson plans and so on. So those have been done. The curriculums, we have curriculum that is being developed, being piloted in schools. We do have to do more when it comes to infusing it in some of the areas. There's some areas we may have to do some labs in. Some of the schools had gardens, some of the primary schools had gardens, so they could use those as well. But that is a goal for us. TVET at every level is important. It depends on the level which is going to determine how infused it is in your curriculum. At the lower streams, like we had last week when we had a color and sip, that was infusing it within the institution. While they were doing the coloring, they're developing the motor skills to be able to do those in later years. So we're heading in that direction.
And of course, St. Kitts-Nevis will be hosting tomorrow, persons who are watching this live, that will be on Thursday, the endoscopic medical conference here. And that involves TVET as well too, because you're using your hands as a doctor, as a surgeon.
I'm glad you said it and not me, because when I tell folks that even the surgeons, you're using your hands, you're developing, you're moving, you're doing skills. So yes, you may have a higher level order of thinking when it comes to certain things, but it's still TVET. And it doesn't matter whether it's a carpenter or mechanic or a surgeon, it's still a vocation. And so you're still a TVET expert.
It's an exciting time, it sounds like, in TVET and the development here in St. Kitts-Nevis. I'll give you the final word, Dr. THompson, and tell persons as well to how they can learn more about TVET.
It's an exciting time. I'm really looking forward. We've done a lot to get TVET going in St. Kitts-Nevis. If you need further information, you can always contact the TVET Council Secretariat in the Ministry of Education. That's 467-1106. Or they can visit online, tvet.gov.kn, and they can reach us.
All right. Any final comments?
I'm looking forward to this month of activities. I'm looking forward to continue promoting TVET. I'm looking forward to when I can comfortably say our people are really taking advantage of the TVET offerings that are available at AVEC, CFBC, and in certification and collaboration with the TVET Council.
Dr. Kertney THompson, CEO of the St. Kitts-Nevis Technical Vocational National Secretariat, TVET National Secretariat Council.
St. Kitts-Nevis TVET Council Secretariat.
You know, I waited at the end to mess that up.
So far, so
thank you so
good.
much. Thank you so much for being with us. All right, I would like to thank you, viewers and listeners, for being with us on this edition of InFocus. And I did mention just a slight correction to an announcement I made a couple of weeks ago in terms of taking calls. Of course, we are seeking the opportunity, and that facilities, I understand now, are in place, and so we would like to invite you to join us next week, interacting with the program a lot more by calling in and being a part of our conversation. We will ask that persons, when they call, that they give their name and they state their questions, so that in the event that you are disconnected, that we'll be able to carry on that conversation in terms of the questions, having that answered. And also in giving your name, it really helps to streamline, in the sense that I'll be able to say, John is on line 1, you know, help to streamline the process, makes it much more efficient. But in the meantime, we'd like to thank you very much for joining us for this edition of InFocus. We trust that you will join us next week for another edition at the same place, at the same time. I'm Ian Richards.
Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts-Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.